to another episode of Get Celebritized. I'm your host, Aurea McGarry, and I'm very excited to introduce you to this amazing young man who I just recently found out about, and here he is on the show. Eli, Eli, I should have asked you how to pronounce your last name. Eli Facenda. I'll check to make sure that's right. But anyway, Eli is the travel guy extraordinaire. Wait till you hear what he can do for entrepreneurs. He's the founder of Freedom Travel Systems, helping entrepreneurs maximize luxury travel points. He is in a league of his own. I am so excited to bring him to you because with Get Celebritized, you know that my motto and mantra is helping you earn more so you can live more, so you can give back more. And Eli is all about you being able to earn more and live more. So let me bring him up. I've talked long enough. Here he is. Eli, welcome to the show. Oh, wait, your microphone.
There
you are. You're on.
Okay. All right. Thanks for having me here, Ray. I'm really excited to dive in and get to share some insights, some strategies, and some of my story of how I got here because it is certainly a fun adventure to get into travel, and it's an area that a lot of people love, and they haven't quite cracked the code. So I'm excited to dive in, pull back the curtain, and reveal some good stuff for the audience here.
I'm excited for you too, and I apologize. I meant to ask you, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Facenda, so you nailed it.
Facenda, yay! I'm so glad. Well, I understand people mispronounce names, but I always feel bad if I do that myself. So with that, I was watching your video, your website. I put it up here, freedomtravelsystems.com with a backslash of Get Celebritized. Let them know you saw them on our show. You have this proprietary system that helps people travel in luxury. And I was watching your video with these couples that are in business, traveling in a queen-size bed on an airplane, which should have cost them 2 million points, and they were doing it for 250,000 points. So we're going to open this can of worms up because people want to travel more. And if you can help them do that, because it's all about that live more, get out there, live life, but why pay more than you have to? So Eli, first, tell us a little bit about what this travel system is.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're doing is ultimately, there's a name for it called travel hacking. So many people have heard of this. And basically there's a whole kind of niche and subculture and this whole community of travel hackers online. And traditionally, this is kind of stuff that's kind of kept behind the curtain, and it can be very nuanced and confusing and complicated. And so what we've done is through years of doing this on our own and breaking things down, trial and error, living it, breathing it, that whole thing, we've synthesized down really the key steps that people need to know in order to implement this in a much more efficient and effective way so they can get the results that they're ultimately after, which is really travel. But ultimately, it's the new experiences, the deeper connection and relationships that you get from those trips you take with friends or family or new people you meet if it's a solo adventure or a business conference. It's ultimately about taking this gift that we have of travel, finding ways to do it more efficiently and effectively so that we can enrich our lives more and live a fuller life. And so that's kind of the main idea here. But at the kind of core of it, what we're ultimately doing is we're maximizing how we earn credit card points and airline miles and hotel points, and then how efficiently we use them, right? And if you start to maximize the money that you're spending already and how you earn frequent flyer miles when you travel and all that stuff, and then you get really good at using them effectively, you can get all sorts of free first class, you can get amazing hotel suites, and you can really do this at a level that most people think you have to be, a millionaire with, multiple 7 or 8 figures saved in the bank in order to be able to do. You don't have to do that at all. You can start no matter where you are, even if you don't have a business, and get some of these strategies in place that will unlock all sorts of your dream trips really quickly. So that's kind of the core essence of it.
I love it because I was, again, diving into finding out more about what you do. And you even said that business owners can even put their payroll on a credit card that is the right credit card to, get the points. So if you can give us a couple of tips without giving away all your systems and secret sauces, but tell us a little bit about what the strategy is about the credit card. Like we might be thinking, okay, I have Delta Sky Miles. So am I in good shape, or is there more to it than that? Can you give us any insights?
Yeah, so what I'd love to do is break down a couple of different chunks of key concepts that you want to be able to understand in order to do this right. And that will allow you to then make decisions better once you kind of have the framework. So the first thing you need to know is that not all points are created equal. So when you're starting out, you need to figure out what are the right points for you to be earning. And that's going to differ person by person. But generally speaking, there's 4 main types of points that are going to be the most effective. And these are what we call transferable bank points. And these would be points like American Express, Citi, Chase, or Capital One. And the reason that these are so effective compared to all the other types of points or cash back or anything else is because you can earn points with these banks, and then you can actually, they have these relationships with the airline hotel loyalty programs. So you can convert your points from American Express points into, for example, Delta miles or Air France miles, or you could convert them into Avianca Life miles or Marriott points or Hilton points and all sorts of different programs. And that's where you get the best bang for your buck, which I can break down a little bit there. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you're earning the right points. And so to your point, a lot of people will go out and they'll just get a random card with a random airline. And like, we'll use that Delta example as an example here. And if you had a card that earned Delta miles and you go out and you spend on groceries, right? Let's say you spend $1,000 a month on groceries, right? Well, if you did that, you'd earn 12,000 Delta miles in a year. Okay. Well, if you had a different card like the Amex Gold, you could earn 4 times the amount. So you could earn 48,000 points a year. And then if you wanted to, since they have a partnership with Delta, you could convert those right into Delta miles anyways. So you could have 4 times the amount of Delta miles if you wanted to. And then if a different airline is the airline you need to fly, or it's a hotel or something else, you could use them for that too. So it gives you more options, gives you better bang for your buck, and it gives you more ways that you can use these points for really awesome travel. So that's kind of the basis of it. And when it comes down to things like payroll or which cards to get, what you want to be doing is making sure that you're maximizing the amount of points that you earn for every dollar that you spend in both your business and your personal life. And when you do that right, you'll start to see that the money you're already spending, instead of it getting you maybe 1 trip a year, it can get you 5 or 10. And instead of getting you a flight in economy or a 3-star hotel, it can be first-class flights and 5-star hotels.
Yeah, I like what I was watching. These people were traveling in style. So it's such a difference of, do you travel just first class and have a comfy seat, or do you travel first class with a queen size bed and a bottle of champagne and then a 5-star hotel and a limousine picking you up, all on points? And I just love this. So it does sound to the average person like me, that's okay, I get Delta Sky miles. I've always done that, have a little bit of a higher card. You're saying transfer points and all that. It can get confusing. So I can totally see the benefit of having somebody like you and your team on our team to say, walk us through that, because we have to be busy living our lives and doing what we do in our business. And it sounds almost like a full-time job to know all, like you need a travel agent. So talk to us about what the difference is between us trying to figure this out on our own and how you cut to the chase, save us time, save us money, and do some of this for us that join your system.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it comes down to a key piece of entrepreneurship and really just creating a life that you want, which is getting leverage and being more efficient with your time. Right. And this is a key thing that everyone that has done something significant with their business or their life has figured out how to do. They've become an expert in something. They've leveraged that and it's turned into a business or some sort of brand or something like that. Right. And they were able to create an amazing life out of that. And then they seek out other experts to help in areas. The whole idea of becoming, a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing, it doesn't really work. And this is one of those areas that to your point, which I think is really wise, is you should probably be seeking help for this unless you're just genuinely passionate about it. Because if you're passionate about it, then it's fun and that's great. But if you don't like it, then really what you want to, the best comparison I can make for this is almost like accounting, right? So you might have an accountant that's going to go through your expenses and look for tax deductions and write-offs, and they're going to read the tax code. And if they have a bookkeeping team, they'll do that and they'll file your taxes. The same thing applies here. You don't necessarily want to be the one that knows every single credit card perk and benefit and the nuances of which cards are best for this and how to use the points and book the travel. The idea here is, again, just like an accountant, you should know your overall strategy. Hey, what airlines do you like to fly? What's your favorite hotels? What kind of trips do you want? How do you know if you're getting good value or bad value? And then you want to be able to have a system or a team in place that can ideally just do this for you so that you get to put your energy and focus into the things that matter more, which is going to be actually enjoying the trips, being with your family, being, with your business and stuff like that. So that's always my consideration and suggestion. But for those that are interested in it, I'm a big believer of, time spent in joy is not time wasted. So even if it's something, that technically is lower value than your hourly wage, but you find it fun and fascinating, then that joy is worth something too. So you got to find the right group for yourself.
Yeah, I want to ask you two questions, kind of like overlapping. One, who is your ideal client? Because I know not everybody's your client, because this is like massive travel. This is like the bigger, higher ticket, I think, and people having the entrepreneur business. So that's going to be part one of this question. And then how did you get started in this? So let's start there. Tell us who is your right client, and then how did you even begin to do this? Because a lot of people had to pivot through the pandemic and tweak and reinvent themselves, and they may be, trying to be more creative and think outside of their box, not necessarily doing travel, but something else. So I want those aha moments that you had to say, hey, this could be a business. So
totally, it's a great question. So Firstly, the ideal clients we work with, they're business owners, they're busy, they're spending a decent amount, multiple 5 figures per month on their credit cards, and they like to travel. So whether it's monthly or a few times a year, or they have a couple big aspirational international bucket list trips, places like the Maldives or Japan, or they want to go to Thailand or South Africa or Paris and stuff like that.
Australia.
And they want to go do it. Where's that?
Australia.
There you go. And you want to be able, you're going on like an 18-hour flight to Australia. You certainly don't want to be sitting upright and not being able to sleep, right? Like that's one where, showing up rested, refreshed, and actually making the travel experience part of the fun of the trip. That's a huge benefit, right? If you get on some of these flights where, even the Emirates first class has a shower on board, it's got Dom Perignon and caviar. It's like you get excited for the flight just as much as the actual trip. And so that's kind of the goal.
That's a great point. Instead of being jet lagged and you have to spend 2 days recovering from the travel, it's part of the vacation. How could never thought of that?
Yeah. And so when you do it right, like the entire experience can really be optimized, because there is the big bucket list trips like you're talking about, but also your everyday travel. And this doesn't just have to be business owners. They obviously have higher spend, so there's more spending power to generate more points. But the average consumer can get a lot out of this. And if you do it right, just from the card perks alone and some optimization, a day of travel can look like this. You get a free Uber ride to the airport because you're using your credit. You get to the airport, you walk right up to the check-in, you check your bag for free, and you're in the VIP line. You then skip security because you've got TSA pre-check and clear. You go to the lounge, you get free drinks and Wi-Fi. You get to board in the first group. You get to first class. They give you champagne. You get off there. You get to the airport baggage line first because you're on first, and then you get to the hotel. You get priority check-in. You get a suite upgrade. You get free breakfast, free Wi-Fi, a free lounge for cocktails and drinks. Like A to Z, those are all things that you don't have to be doing anything crazy with, and that can be your
drunk for free. I love it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of what we talk about, and then the real big bonus on top is if you use the points for crazy stuff, like you get a $15,000 first class trip, and you pay $500 for it. That stuff's all very possible too. So that's kind of the essence of like kind of our ideal avatar. But for me, the way that I got into this, it actually started out of necessity. So I went to Lehigh University and I was a finance degree, and I had a lot of friends that went to Wall Street and they made a lot of money right out of school. And I took more of the entrepreneurial route, and I wanted to be able to hang out with them and travel and take some of these trips. And I was like, I wasn't making nearly as much. I'm hustling, doing all this stuff. And I was like, I have to find a better way to be able to create these experiences. And I had a mentor who told me, you don't need money, you need a better strategy. So I started thinking, what are some other ways? What are some other options out there? I heard about credit card points, jumped in, and I got at first a couple free trips. I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, but the game changer moment was when I flew over to London. This is like 2 years out of college, and I'm making probably like $30K a year at this point. And I get on this flight, and it was the first time I'd ever walked on a plane and turned left instead of turning right. So I'm going to the business and first class section rather than like economy. And I remember just walking in, I'm like, I felt so out of place. I'm like, everyone's going to know I'm like an imposter here. Like I don't belong. And so I'm walking down the seat, and they give me the champagne, and it hit me. When I sat down, I was like, oh my God, I'm like 24 years old. I just paid $6 for this. I look over to the person next to me, I'm like, that person paid like $6,000, and they're like the CEO of some big company. And I was like, I do not belong here, and this is awesome. So I dove in, and then I just nerded out. And for years, this whole thing became, first kind of a hobby, and then a passion, and then an obsession, and then a little bit of like a brand. And then I started to consult people. And then kind of over the last couple of years, it really blew up into a legitimate real business where we've got, 15 clients. We're working with some pretty big kind of like business entrepreneur, celebrity type people. And we've got a whole operation here. So it's been really fun and a really cool journey.
How long have you been doing it for? How long?
So yeah, the business for a little over 3 years now. And for myself personally, I've been doing this for about 8 to 9 years now personally.
Okay. Who's like you don't have to mention names, but like what competition or types of other things are out there? Because I know we know travel agents, and I love using a travel agent. I have a friend who's a sweet travel agent. Really good at what she does, but this is something that's different. It's a cool niche that is completely seems like it stands alone. So tell me a little bit about what makes you different and what sets you apart from. Does anybody else do this? I don't give them a plug though.
Sure. There's a couple freelancers out there that do stuff one-off. There isn't really anyone that's doing it as a full service kind of offering like we are right now. And it's kind of, it's tricky to build, honestly. I think that's the biggest reason why. What the most common things you're going to see are there's a lot of bloggers, there's a lot of social media accounts, there's a lot of people who do, they're writing articles and stuff like that. There's a couple apps and tools and softwares in this world that can help, but they don't really get you the full solution. Right. And then there's some people that do freelance, like one-off services, but they don't really offer as end-to-end of a service. And so, for us, we have courses, we have services, we have consulting, we have like the whole kind of gamut. Yeah. So it really just depends on what the clientele is looking for. But there are a handful of people out there doing it. But overall, there's honestly not a ton. And that's kind of a cool thing for us. We're in a little bit of like a blue ocean. There's some people kind of jumping into it as well, but it's a unique skill set. So to build a team, like to find specialized people in this, it's not like building an accounting practice where there's like hundreds of thousands of bookkeepers. Like you really have to find really high quality people, and that's part of the craft of building something like this.
Well, I think, like people like me and my age range and whatever won't say my age range is, but I much rather find somebody like you that it's done for you. Because again, I work full time. I do everything that I do full time, mompreneur and everything that I'm doing. For me to ever figure out what you just talked about would never happen. And everything would fall between the cracks. It's like, I always wish I had somebody, and my older daughter is really good at this, is the coupon queen. Like, I would love to use coupons, but I don't have time to go search them out, get the coupons, get everything. It's like, whatever. But people save a ton of money that know how to do it. And I always tell them that would be a great business where people hire you to collect all the coupons they need, and then you just go save the money. People don't realize that this is, a sellable commodity. This is intellectual property that people would buy because it saves them time, saves them money. And if you can get this, you're not saving people a little bit. You're literally, when I saw that, could have been 2 million points versus it was 250,000 points, and they got all that. That's a huge savings. So is your system like affordable for the average person without you having to go over all the prices and things? So they can go right to the website. And normally my show, it's don't want to be so informational, but this is such a good pain reliever for people. And with people wanting to travel, people, trying to make ends meet, trying to still bounce back from the pandemic. And I think this is such a great pain reliever for people. Not so much here, buy this, but if this could save them money, they love to travel, and they can go further and wider and better because you save the money. I want them to know what you do. So even more than just the story. So thank you for that.
That's very generous of you. Yeah. And we have a whole range of stuff, and we've got, I've got everything as low as a mini course, and I will share a little bit more about how you can get that for free, but basically you can DM me on Instagram, just the word mini. It's normally $50. We'll send it over for free. So we've got stuff ranging from that up to higher level courses that really go in depth and lay this out in a sequential order where you can learn it if you want. And it'll take a few hours for you to really get most of the majority of what you need to know there. And then we've got stuff ranging up to, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, sometimes 15, 20,000, depending on how much help the client needs, how much service they want versus consulting, if they have an assistant that they want trained up, or if they want to do it. There's a whole kind of range and kind of custom package on that. So, ultimately, it's one of those things where it makes a lot of sense depending on who the person is. If they're traveling a lot and they're spending 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000 a year on travel, or they want to be taking some epic trips, their bucket list trips, and they realize, hey, next year doesn't always come. I think that was one of the big lessons from the pandemic. Is like, a lot of us like, oh, like these things that I was always counting on as guaranteed, not as guaranteed as I thought. And I better start like having the experiences and living the life that I want now, because, we just don't know. Right. And so, so that was a big piece, I think, that is motivating a lot of people now. Like we look at summer travel for 2023, and availability to go to Europe is way down, but that's a great thing to me because it just means people are like, you know what, this is like time to finally get back on the road. And I'm excited for that. I think people should be traveling more. And I'm a huge believer in what travel does for the individual. So to see those trends is great, but that's kind of an array of what we do and how we can support people.
So in other words, somebody that is kind of savvy in couponing and perks and has that mindset, that detailed personality, it would not be me. I'd be like, here, do it. I want to go here, make it happen, give me the best deal. So it seems like you have soup to nuts where somebody could learn it themselves with your help, or they could have you as by their side, but they do most of the work. So you kind of like have this great hybrid where they can take as much of you as they can afford or they want to do. And they can just say, hey, here, travel system, here's where I want to go, make it happen. And you're saying you will do a done for you type of trip for them. Is that correct?
Bingo. You got it.
Okay. That's great to know. And it's really good for people that are trying to save up for, I like what you said from the pandemic. Our bucket list, our retirement trips should not be way off in the future, 5-10 years. We can make it happen so much closer because we don't know what tomorrow brings. We never know what tomorrow brings. And bring in these big trips closer than waiting till you're 65, 75 or whatever it is, or a graduation. Your kids are in kindergarten, you're planning their graduation trip, you got 12 years. You could make all that happen so much sooner and start having more trips. So it's not just a once in a lifetime, it becomes more the norm. And probably the favorite thing you said that I just want to recap is you can turn the travel day into part of the vacay. So, I mean, it just sounds like you were just happy and loopy and having a good time. And it's even great for people who are more nervous to fly and everything. Get them drunk in the beginning and they don't sober up the next day. Exactly don't carry you all the way.
Right.
Here we go. But that's really good for people that want to go, like you said. I know friends that have been to Thailand, Japan, Australia. They take these big, long trips. And if you can make that part of the fun instead of, oh my gosh, I've got to get on this flight, and then you can't wait to get off, but it's in luxury. Most people think they could never afford the luxury or earn that many points in a lifetime. So tell us a few more tips on what they can do and how this could work for them, because this is just eye-opening, and I love this that you brought it down to, let's say, the average person. It doesn't have to be, the multi-billionaire that of course travels like that. But even I can see you saving money to the multi-billionaires that don't want to spend the money, because they're the best with their money. They're the ones that want to save the most, because that's why they keep their wealth. They don't just blow it. It's like if they can save it and they can do it, save 2 million points, they're doing that too.
Totally. No, you're right. You're exactly right. And that's what we do have a lot of high profile clients, and you'd be surprised that, some of them, they make a lot of money and they're like, hey, this was $200 more than this. And it's like, they're looking at it all. So it's a great point. Now, when it comes to a couple different tips, so there's a lot of different the beauty of this game is there's like an overall strategy to this. And then there's all these kind of small little tips and hacks and strategies where you don't have to understand everything to get some value. The more you understand the big picture, the easier it is to figure out what the right moves are for you. But you can always just jump in and do a couple cool things. So I'll share a few with you here. Okay. So first things first, more obvious thing is like a lot of these cards are going to come with high sign-up bonuses. So you want to look for the cards that are going to be, well-timed for your types of purchases and how much you're spending. So a lot of them will say, hey, you'll get 80,000 points in the first 90 days if you spend $4,000 on the card, right? So you want to be looking for those. Now, one of the other big benefits here is that there's some cards that will offer some really awesome bang for your buck stuff, like off the bat. So one of them is going to be the American Airlines Aviator Red card. This card gets you 50,000 points on your first purchase. So back in the day, I wasn't spending a lot, spending like less than $1,000 a month, and I was playing this points game. So again, you don't have to be spending a lot to do this. It's just easier if you do. But I was like, how am I going to make this all work? Because I don't have, I don't have a lot of money and I'm not spending that much. And so I basically was going the route like that. And I would get a card. I'd go to 7-Eleven. I'd buy a Slurpee. Boom. I'd have 50,000 points. And that was a business class ticket to Europe. Yeah. So
let me ask you this before I forget. If they get this American Airlines one, but you were saying something about transferring points. So let's say they want to fly Delta, or they have to fly Air France because they're going to France. Are those transferable, or are you stuck with just American Airlines or just Delta Airlines?
So if you have airline points already in the airline program, they can't transfer out to any of them. So with American Miles, you can only fly American Airlines or they're in the One World Alliance. So there's 3 different airline alliances, and they have global partners. So you could use American Airline Miles to fly on British Airways or to fly on Qatar and stuff like that. So there are different ways to use them on that level. Ultimately, you do want to start with these transferable points, but if you want some really easy low-hanging fruit wins, it can make sense to pick up a card that's going to get you the 50,000 points with a specific airline. But to your point, you can't transfer them to other airlines, and that is also a great little tip for people. If you are going to convert points from like Amex into Flying Blue, which is Air France's loyalty program, for example, you can't convert them back. So what you always want to do is you want to make sure you found the seat or the flight or the hotel first before you transfer them, because once you do, you're done, right? So that's a big thing. So a couple other quick tips. If you are going to convert points, sometimes there's transfer bonuses. So like right now, there's one that I think is like a 25% bonus to Air France. So that just means that when you convert your points, you get a 25% bonus to do it then. So that can be a great time to just maximize the value out of your points. So let's say you had 100,000 points and you converted your Amex points to Air France. Instead of getting 100,000 Air France miles or Flying Blue miles, that's what they're called, you'd get 125,000. So you'd have to convert less in order to book the same ticket. So that's kind of the key there. And what I want to articulate as well is like why does the kind of arbitrage or the gap in opportunity, like why is there so much opportunity to create so much value in this? And that has to do with the difference between how these bank portals charge, like the Amex travel portal, Chase travel portal, and how the airlines charge. And just a quick distinction on that, the bank portal like Chase or Amex or Capital One or Bank of America or Wells Fargo or any of these, if you log in, what they do is they're basically taking your points. They assign a fixed value to that point of 1 cent in almost all cases. And then whatever the cash cost is, that's how much they're going to charge you in points, right? So if it's a $15,000 ticket, great. They give you 1 cent for each point you have. So it would cost you 1.5 million points. If the price goes up, the number of points goes up with it. But the airlines have different ways of charging. Oftentimes it's going to be based on like the region that you're flying to or from. So if you're flying from the East Coast of the US to Dubai on Emirates first class, in that example, right? it was 136,000 points, I believe it was. And so instead of paying $14,500 for the ticket, which is option A for that first class ticket, or going to Amex Travel and using 1.45 million points, you could convert those to Emirates, and it was 136,000 points, and then you pay $500 in taxes. So that's why the whole game kind of exists, and figuring out which airlines to convert the points to, which ones have the best arbitrage, which ones have the right routes and deals, and even the best flights, because the one with the shower for Emirates is only out of certain airports, and there's other Emirates flights that don't have a shower, right? So there's a lot of kind of layers to it, but it's pretty cool once you start to figure it out. And to your point, it is like couponing in the game. Yeah. That's it.
Well, I like the way you compared yourself to an accountant. Never in a million years would I ever do my own taxes or can I do math? Well, that's questionable. I used to be able to, but should I be doing that? Absolutely not. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So this is so interesting and so intriguing, especially as we're coming on to summer now. But people will watch this show, all throughout the year and replay a million times. But this is so good, year round for people to know that this option is here and they have a better way of travel and a better way to, you're going to spend money anyway. Anytime you can turn your spendable income into rewards. I learned that a long time ago. That's why I started with my American Express, my Delta flights and everything, because I love Delta. I'm here in Atlanta area, so everybody love Delta. It's our home base. So, but you're taking this to a whole new level. But at least a lot of the travelers now are aware of this. And most people that I've talked to have something going on that helps them get points. And we even go so far. Let me ask you this question. My heart belongs to charities and nonprofits. I love helping charities. I'm a cancer and domestic violence thriver, and I'm a charity auctioneer. So anything I can do to help charities, I am there. And so with this, do you have some part of your company that says, okay, I'd like to transfer, 10,000 points or 150,000 points to a charity? Do you help people do that and get the best transfer for that?
Mm-hmm. So we don't do that ourselves, but there are some third-party charities that will support. And there's some really cool ones that actually help refugees get relocated to different locations, and we'll do promotions for that. And sometimes people will donate to that, and I'll raise money on social media. There's actually a campaign I did last August where I was traveling around some of the best first class flights in the world, and I would dress in these funny costumes. So I had an Elvis costume on Qatar Airways first class. I dressed like Elvis on Singapore Suites. I dressed like Jon Snow from Game of Thrones on another one. And every time I was just tagging this program, and we were basically raising money for charity for that. And they accept points or they accept cash, and then they do the bookings. And that's called Miles for Migrants, the number 4. Amazing program. And they help, whether it's Ukrainian refugees, people from Venezuela, they're helping them reconnect with their families and do all sorts of really cool stuff there. So if people want to donate and give back, it's a great way to do it.
What if we want to give back to like our favorite charity? And I'd say to you, Eli, I've got all these Delta Sky Mile points, whatever, but I want to give some. My friend who does have a charity that she helps Haiti, and let's say she wants to bring or take back, back and forth that she goes there all the time to Haiti. I want to give her some of my travel miles. Do you help with that to get the best transfer points or not?
So we don't technically do that directly. We're more focused on like doing that for the clients, but that's what this program will do. They'll focus on getting the best bang for the buck out of the miles once you donate it to the charity. So they help with that. So we partnered up with them for that because it's a whole other gamut on its own, just trying to sort out how to maximize that for people that are in those types of situations. And so, if you wanted to connect with them, I would absolutely encourage anyone listening to check out Miles for Migrants. It's a great program.
Miles for Migrants with the number 4. All right. That's awesome. Thank you for that. I love that you give back. You were just like the poster child for my show. Earn more, live more, and give more. You got it all, the whole package. So let me ask you this. Let's go into a little bit of the business. Here you are, a young entrepreneur, you're doing great. You found a niche, you found a pain that people have, and you found a solution. So I'm applauding you for that. Let me ask you, what was the hardest part of getting this off the ground? Did you start as a solopreneur? Did you partner with the right person? Give us a little bit of the nuts and bolts of how you made this come to fruition as other people are thinking, gosh, I have a vision. I wish I could make my business as successful as Eli's made his.
It's a great question because it was a challenge. It was not easy. I'll be honest. So the last 8 years, I still own and operate this international tour company. We take sports teams on trips overseas, youth teams and like their families. And that's how I got into the travel game too. And so I was running that, growing that. We were super busy. COVID hit. And I mean, you couldn't be in a worse position than international large groups of people traveling overseas. I mean, it's just like, you can't. So it was a little bit of a mess. Right. But that was kind of the pause. And I didn't really intend initially to be like, I want to turn this into like a multi-7-figure company. That was not the plan. It was, this is a passion of mine. I'd love to generate some extra income because I want to blow up this other tour company. And, you know, the income from that company is kind of going to be in the future as we grow. And like the pandemic hit, and like I could see that getting pushed further and further out. And I was like, I got to do something on my own. So I tried to launch this. It took me 3 tries to get this off the ground, 2 failed attempts. And the reason was, I mentioned this in the beginning, I was working hard and not smart. And you only have so much energy. And I've gone through multiple iterations of kind of hitting burnout walls in my career because I had to learn this lesson over and over again. But ultimately, I had to basically find a way to invest with a mentor that could show me the exact strategies. And I was able to then also get a virtual assistant to help me actually do some of the administrative stuff and get things off the ground. So I learned to create better systems, to delegate, to automate. And that was the way that I could really set things up in a way where I could get the first few clients and get the ball rolling. Because with any service-based product, you know, you really have to get people to get results and get the testimonials, the case studies, the proof in the pudding. And then once you have that, things can kind of just keep going on their own. But getting that initial traction off the ground can be really challenging. So it was a lot of doing stuff for free, a lot of just trying to help people out, giving a ton, and just, you know, having the faith to know like, hey, I think, you know, if I keep betting on this, I'm betting on myself. And I think I got a good shot here. And also just a different shift in my relationship to risk tolerance and like what I was okay with taking risk on. So that was kind of the idea. There was one other credit piece that played a big role too, which is kind of a whole other thread, but it's around business credit, because most entrepreneurs don't know that if you get business credit cards, they don't show up in your personal credit report. And so what you can do is, if you're investing in a new business, new venture, you need more capital and you don't want to take out a loan or use your own cash, you can actually get approved for 0% interest business cards. You can use those to invest in what you need to invest in. And then as long as it ROIs within 12 months, you pay off the card, you paid no interest. So I did that for this initial launch period. I invested into a mentorship, which was like $7,500. I put it all on a 0% card. And I was like, at that time for me, that was like a lot of risk. And I was I was like, all right, this better work. And that was enough to put my back to the wall, and it gave me enough commitment to follow through. But I was able to do that with 0% interest business cards too. So that was beyond points, but it's a whole other piece of the credit game too.
Well, you gave me I'm thinking of a really great question to ask you too. One, good for you for not giving up. It's like 3 strikes you're out, but it was 2 strikes, you did 1 more, and you weren't out, you were in, you made it. So that's what it takes in entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is not easy. So anybody that just says, oh, get rich quick, it is not. It's always a struggle. Everybody getting started, from the Bill Gates to the Tony Robbins to Oprah, everybody struggles in the beginning. But it's those that not just don't quit, but that find the right resources to make it happen. So let me ask you this. You said, oh, I found a mentor, found a coach. Okay, normally I'd say, of course you did. But who on earth and how did you find the right coach that could help you with this? Because this is something that's not the average business. You know, you're doing something kind of really new and outside the box. And, you know, you think maybe you need to go on Shark Tank to, you know, find the investor in this, because this isn't something that would be easy to find somebody that's been there, done that. Because my advice to my clients is always find somebody who's where you want to be and then hire them to take you there. But who on earth was where you wanted to be?
Yes, great question. So I was really looking for a mentor that knew online business in and out, because to your point, there was no one that had done this before. I was going into uncharted territory, which the pros are, like I said, you know, is kind of a blue ocean. And really what that means is just that there's not a lot of other competitors. So we've created this really cool space where we're kind of leading the industry in this way, which is awesome. The downside is there's not a very proven path, right? And so there's the pros and the cons. But for that reason,
what kind of mentor did you get? Somebody who was a billionaire that could figure it out for you?
No, actually, it was a guy pretty young, but he was really successful at helping people start and scale online service and coaching based products. And so when I first started, I wasn't quite sure what this was going to be. I thought it would be a coaching program, and that's kind of how it started, right? I was going to teach people how to do this, and that's really, I mean, at the end of the day, the content is different than, you know, coaching on life coaching or business coaching or relationship coaching, but the business model itself is the exact same. The only thing that's different is your packaging, your positioning, and your message. And so once I realized that, I was like, oh, all the strategies that he's talking about will work exactly for my business, as long as I figure out how to showcase this in a way that's actually valuable for someone and would give them a no-brainer. This makes sense to purchase. So that took a while to figure out, but that was how I started. So I was working with an online business coach, amazing guy. His name is Ravi Abuvala. Scaling with Systems is the company. I'm still good friends with him today. And he was a huge, huge start for me. So that was how I started out. And for me, it was just important to see, there's a lot of business coaches out there and online gurus, quote unquote. I wanted to see someone that was really living it. And I knew like I could really trust that they were actually practicing what they preach. And this guy had built other businesses before. And so I was like, he's not just building a business, teaching other people how to build businesses. It was like, he's actually done it. And so that was why I invested with him and decided to go for it.
How did you vet? Because a lot of people now, there's so many, I don't want to say fakes out there, but so many people look really pretty on paper and you think they're going to have all the answers. And I know there's always the risk, and you took that risk, but you took a calculated risk. So what are some of the things that you did to vet that person to really say, okay, this guy is who he said he's going to be, and knowing that you yourself will have to take action, because people can join up all the time to the best of the best. You can hire, again, the Tony Robbins of the world, who absolutely can make you successful, who is successful. But if you don't take action and do what he says in whatever, realm you need, it's not going to work. And you took action. But how did you vet him to make sure you knew that, okay, he knows what he's talking about. He has proof, people that have done it, that are doing this. And I love that you said the one thing you needed, no matter what the product was, that you need to know how to scale an online business. So you were able to plug in your creative, nuanced type of business that not everybody does, but you had the system of scaling an online business, and he knew that. So how did you vet him?
Yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of the reviews, read their case studies. I'd followed his content for a while, consumed a lot of his free stuff. So he did a great job of putting out a lot of free content that allowed me to be like, all right, this guy knows his stuff. And I could tell that. And then I was like, now does he get results for clients? And I just asked a few of the clients that were in these testimonials or were like showcasing that they got results. And all of them were like, it's legit, it's real. And a lot were honest too. They're like, it doesn't mean it's just going to be done for you overnight. Like, you got to put in the work, but if you follow the steps, like, you're going to get there. And that's the same for anything, right? Like, I think anyone that's, that's trying to just like find a get rich quick thing, they're missing the boat here of how like actual entrepreneurship works. Yeah. And I'm a big believer in, like you said, like, there's going to be really challenges, but it can be very, very rewarding too. And I think if it wasn't challenging, some of that reward wouldn't be as juicy. So that's part of the beauty of the game. But there's definitely times where it's like, no matter who you are, where you started or whatever, it seems like everyone is going to hit walls where they're struggling. And for some people, I have some friends who first business, they struck gold and they made multiple $1 million in their 20s. And now they're struggling because they're like, I don't know what my purpose is. Like, I don't know what to do with this money. And now I'm just afraid I'm going to lose it. And it's like, they have a new challenge ahead of them. So no one really has it that easy, in my opinion. Everyone has their own kind of own challenges that they may be facing that we don't know about. And so that's a big thing too, especially with the social media world, right? We look at everyone's externals and compare ourselves of how we feel to their outside reality, when in reality, we don't know what the inside world for that person actually is. So.
For sure. And the business world, whether you have a job or whether you're an entrepreneur, whatever it is, you're going to have challenges. I mean, we just don't take it from me. I've been around the block a while, and it's always a journey. We'll never arrive. You meet great goals. You meet great, pinnacles, which are wonderful. You enjoy them. But no, struggles is part of life, and that's the fun part. And if you know you love it, then you'll get through it. It kind of reminds me, Eli, like going to college. You can graduate from college. It is there. It's set up for you to go from freshman to senior and throw the cap in the air. But many people don't make it through for whatever challenges, or they quit, or they don't put in the work, or they find it too hard, or don't seek out the help, don't get tutoring if needed. They just think it's this cookie cutter and they're going to breeze right through it because you got in. And it's not. Like anything. You want to get out the other side, it's going to take work. And that's okay. Work's a 4-letter word. But if you love it, like if you know you're in college and you love what you're going to go in for, engineering or drama or mathematician or scientist, whatever, if you love it, you'll power through and you'll find the help you need, the study partners, the study groups, the tutors, whatever. Because very few people are that person that doesn't have to study in the Doogie Housers that can graduate to be a doctor at 12 years old. That's not the norm. So I just love your story, and I love that you did this. And Eli, I love that you did this through the pandemic, because I really love to help the people in my circle continue to pivot, reinvent themselves, and find happiness and joy after that, because nobody got out of the pandemic without some scars and bruises. Some people have bounced back real quick and have found their footing. There's so many others, and kids and teenagers that can't even finish school because so much that went on, and they need hope. They need to know it's going to be work. It's going to be hard, but they have somebody that can help them through it, or there's hope that work hard enough, they can make it. So talk to us for a few minutes before we have to close up the show. You're young, to the youth of this world that is trying to find their way and find their calling and become an entrepreneur. Give us some words of advice from your success some tips to them that could help them through while they're trying to maneuver and navigate through making their dreams come true so they can take their dream trips and call you.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest, most important things that anyone can navigate, whether it's business or not personally, is just your relationship to fear and what that actually means. And not just like as an intellectual idea. I think a lot of the personal growth stuff out there, messages you may hear, the quote, inspirational quote, it's a great idea and that puts you in your head, but the actual sensations in your body of what actual like fear feels like. And as you start to get a little more comfortable with that and you can lean into it and just be like, oh, this is just my body trying to protect itself from dying, but I'm not doing anything that's actually going to kill me. The more you can actually get in touch with those sensations and move through them, the more the world opens up and possibilities become real. And I think that's kind of what happened during COVID for a lot of us, is a lot of our fear boxes just got really small and our lives got smaller and smaller and tighter and tighter. And then a lot of people haven't broken back out of that. And so I think a great way to do that, if you're like, I feel stuck and I'm not sure why, and I don't know what to do. So there's some great books on this kind of stuff. One of my favorites is called the Sedona Method, but it's a lot of times, in my opinion, it's about really getting in touch with like, what are the actual sensations, the feelings that are those things that you don't want to feel that end up keeping you stuck because you're afraid if you do something, you're going to feel a certain way and then you don't do it. And so I think that's super important because once you kind of move through some of that stuff, you feel liberated. And the thing that seemed like a big deal, it's not like you overcame some mighty thing. It was just like you just maybe realized, oh, it was just a feeling that was holding you back. And it becomes much smaller, much simpler. And so I'm a big believer in that kind of stuff. And I think you nailed it with the word hope. Like there's dark times for everybody, you know, and I think it can get really challenging for really anyone. And that is like the most important thing during that kind of period, is just to reconnect with like maybe past times you felt like that, or the people who have gone through really challenging times, and find ways to create more hope, because there's always another side to it. But when we're in it, it doesn't always look like that. And so I've been there many times myself. You know, it can look like there's you see the little sliver crack of light at the end of the tunnel, and you're like, I think there's something there. And that's what you got to hold on to during some of those times in my experience too. So yeah,
I love that. And I'm a big believer in not going through this life alone, having friends, having people that just, you know, your amen corner, your balcony friends, the ones that'll pull you up when you're down and you pull them up when you're down, because we really can't do this life alone, and we shouldn't. And I had a very inspirational guest on my show a couple of months ago, and I forget what he said. He goes, and he reminded me of this, because he said, not dying, like living this fear, like, okay, today I lived, you know, I didn't die today, because he had some terrible accidents and all he was trying to do was just not die. He goes, not dying is not the same as living. And when he flipped that around and realized you've got to live your life, not just not die today, it changes the game.
Yeah.
And when you said fear, you know, we're not going to, and I've said that before, like, especially living in America, really, and bigger countries, you know, like Europe or wherever, where you're not going to die by going out and having a challenge. Like my friends that have a nonprofit in Haiti. Haiti, you could die today. You go out. It's so chaotic, and the gangs and the guns, it's just horrible. And those kids are praying for their life today. For us, we're making decisions. Like you just said, it's not going to kill us. We may fail, but we'll fail forward to success. It's okay. And when so I really want to hone in on, you said, have a better relationship with fear. Feel the fear, do it anyway, and it won't kill you to be brave today. And what's the worst that can happen? Why not give it a whirl? What's the worst that can happen? Because you don't want to just not die today. You want to live. You want to travel. You want to do big things. And this brings me to my favorite question I love to ask, because I used to have a summit called, and this is how I won my Emmy Award for having Live Your Legacy TV. And I had my summits, Live Your Legacy Summits. Eli, what is your legacy? How do you want to be remembered? I know you're young. You're probably not even thinking about that. You got a long way to go. But how would you love to be remembered when your last breath is taken?
Believe it or not, I do think about that. And one of my favorite songs of all time, it's by Tim McGraw, and it's called Standing Room Only. And it's basically like the idea that, you know, he's not playing for like trophies or money or the material things. He's like, I'm playing for standing room only at my funeral. And it's like about impact and touching life. It's a beautiful song. Yeah. So it's really cool.
Look it up.
So to me, that's really what the game is about. It's about that and looking back and being like, wow, I went all out. Like I didn't play not to win. I played to win, not playing not to lose. And that's, there's a big difference in that. And I think, to me, that's the biggest thing. And I have my favorite quote, because we're hitting I'm hitting a lot of cliches here. But it's like, I got it in Howard Thurman. I think he was a mentor to Martin Luther King. But what he said was, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. And so to me, that's what the essence of like the travel thing is about. It's like people travel, they go.
Whose quote is that? I love that.
Yeah, it's probably maybe my favorite quote in that I've ever heard, but it's a guy named Howard Thurman, but it's don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is more people who have come alive.
Oh, I'm stealing that. I love that.
It's a great one, right?
And
it's true. That. I think it's really true, because when you find the thing that just brings life out of you, like I can tell you love podcasting, it just emanates, it impacts other people. You don't have to be going to do a bunch of stuff, just by being who you are in that place. Like you really have impact. And that's why the travel thing is so significant to me for my life. That's been like some of the most profound perspective shifts, the times when I felt the most alive, and being able to share that with people, especially people that get stuck in routines and, or, you know, they're a busy entrepreneur. They don't give themselves a break. They've been working so hard. They don't get to like enjoy life anymore. To be able to share that with people, I think is something that's really awesome beyond the champagne and showers in the sky and all that stuff. It's cooler than that.
Oh, champagne shower. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you're talking. All right, we're traveling real luxury. I love it. Well, this is so great, because we're talking a lot about just not die today. Don't live paycheck to paycheck. Get more out of your paychecks. Get more life out of what's here for those who know how to get more out of it, whether you're the coupon queen or whether you're the Sky Miles queen or king or whatever. This is so great to tap into somebody like you that has it all figured out. So we don't have to go read 600 books on this and become a master at it. We can tap into you and start learning. And if you don't enjoy learning it and you're like, not for me, hire you, do it for us, and let more people travel and live their best life and live out loud and live big. Eli, thank you for being here with us today. You have been
thank you so much.
And a joy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. As I mentioned, guys, the link is down there, as well as if you just want to get the free mini course, it's normally $50, but just DM me MINI on Instagram, which is just at Eli Travel Guy, and you'll get the free mini course there. And I have all sorts of reels with content and stuff like that, so you can get more info there. But Ray, I really appreciate you having me on, and the energy that you shared with me and the audience is amazing. So really blessed to be part of it, and super appreciative.
Oh, thank you so much. We'll definitely have to have you back on too. And I'm going to put your link to your Instagram in the description so everybody can click on that and DM you, because I have a feeling a lot of people are going to want to tap into you. And I love that you said, for entrepreneurs, I hope you all heard this, that Eli was able to find the right coach for himself that really could deliver, because that coach gave a lot of free content. And Eli, you give a lot of free content. So it allows people to experience you and your expertise to see if you're going to take it to the next level. And even if not, getting some of that free content and be able to run with that and live a better life, that's also what we do as coaches as well. So give a lot of free content out there. If you are a coach, you have some expertise, because that's where the juice happens. That's where people can really experience you and either take you to the next level, tell the people they know about you, because you're freely giving of information and of content, as well as there's always room for the paid stuff, but give some free, because that will serve the world and serve you better. So thank you, Eli, for that.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. I'll see you next time on Get Celebritized, where you always learn how to earn more, live big, and travel, and give back more. Thank you, Eli. Thank you.